Hi everyone, I hope everyone is doing very well. So it's a week of Diwali for all the people and all the citizens of the country. So first of all, happy Dhanteras to everyone. You get a lot of money, prosperity, you become wealthy, and whichever terms you want your prosperity to come, it should come. To all the aspirants, I'll want that prosperity in terms of clearing exams and joining the services. I feel this would be the most prosperous thing for you. So with this lovely wishes, I start today's lecture of 29th October of the Daily Decodes at the rate of the Hindu analysis. So the important news for today, okay, before we move towards the important news, the thought for the day is, do not give up. The beginning always is the hardest. So it is always, whenever you start studying for any exam, you start preparing, or you want to go for any sport, for example, you start going to gym, you start doing various physical exercises. This particularly goes for me too, that the initial part is tough for everyone. Once you overcome the initial part, then obviously the things will start falling in places. Once you start doing you start preparing for the exams, initial part is very tough for everyone. Once you overcome that, once you start sticking to your timetable, once you start going through that hard work on daily basis, sticking to your timetable, sticking to your hours, sticking to your books, start completing syllabus, start doing revision, things will certainly become easy for you. Rather, it's not easy, you become habitual to it. So first important step is to take that step and stick to it. So that's a positive thought for everyone you should follow. So the important news for today is India, Spain condemn attacks on US peacekeepers in Lebanon. This is a continuation of news we had covered. India, Spain. So the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, he was in India. So we are talking about that news. So we'll continue with that. What challenges India face in fertilizer imports? Finance Ministry flags softer urban demand, factory output, cyclical slowdown. Nomura economists think so. So there are two particular news related to the Indian economy, and both the news are telling that Indian economy is moving towards slowdown. It might not be able to achieve the targets which RBI has put up. Then we have a wonderful editorial today, the underrepresentation of women in judiciary, very important editorial, and we'll try to cover this editorial in details, understanding the issue of gender sensitization, understanding the issue, what is the representation of women in lower judiciary, what is the representation of women in higher judiciary, and apart from that, what are the basic problems? Some basic problems are simple things like toilet. Women do not have lady toilets, they don't have individual or specific toilets for women. That is also in high courts and some at the lower level courts also. It's a big issue that you might feel that toilet is a small thing, but they don't even have toilets. So we'll talk about from toilet to gender issues to various theories which are associated with it, where infrastructure becomes an obstacle for a women to get into judiciary. We'll talk about all that. Then we'll have question and answers, tidbits in extra mile. Now Q&A has become a part of all the various news which we have already told you. So first is India-Spain slams attack on UN troops in Lebanon. So the UN troops which are in Lebanon, so let me tell you what are these UN troops. So these are called United Nations Interim Force, or UNIFIL. So UNIFIL is in Lebanon. This basically came after Israel had attacked in the southern Lebanon area where Hezbollah used to be there. Now UNIFIL is there. UNIFIL is United Nations Interim Force, which the agenda of this particular force is to confirm Hezbollah demilitarization, support Lebanese army operations against insurgents, weapon smuggling, and confirming Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon in order to ensure that the government of Lebanon would resort effective authority in the area. Now the problem which is coming is that I'll just give you a context. So Israel is attacking Hezbollah. Now Hezbollah is in the southern part of the Lebanon, or what we can call as northern areas to the Israel. Now they are here, and Hezbollah continuously does these rocket and missiles attack. Now Israel is telling that they are basically attacking from the area where the UNIFIL bases are situated. So Israel is asking that UNIFIL, that stands for United Nations Interim Force, they relocate their bases or they leave their bases, so that the Israel Defense Forces, they are saying we don't want to attack the UNIFIL forces. we just want to attack Hezbollah, or we want to search the areas where Hezbollah is. But because of these attacks, there is a lot of casualty, or lot of UNIFIL structures are getting destroyed and people are getting injured. Now globally, many countries including Italy, including India, including Spain, which gives a lot of amount of forces in UNIFIL area, they at one point of time, most of the European countries are standing with Israel, but they targeting UNIFIL where Israeli or Spain forces are there, Indian forces are there. Nobody is standing with Israel on this, and they are asking that you don't attack on UNIFIL areas. So there are major things when it comes to this, and what is majorly coming out of this is the both countries expressed concern over recent attack on United Nations interim forces Lebanon. Now this interim force has forces from Spain also, from Italy also, from India also, and from many countries which have supported Israel in the Israel-Hamas war. But no country would like that their security personnel are getting because of the Israeli attack. So they are asking Israeli defense forces and Israeli government to stop it. So this is UNIFIL. This has been in the news for the last 1.5 months. But since the Spain Prime Minister was in India, both the Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister Modi and the Spain Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has spoken about this. So India, Spain stressed the inviolability of UN premises and the sanctity of their mandate must be respected, that the United Nations mandate must be respected. Next is India has around 903 troops in UNIFIL and Spain has around 676 soldiers in UNIFIL. So India also has representation in this Lebanon area, plus the Spain also has the representation in this UNIFIL area. Now the problem is that Israel keeps on saying that when it comes to this particular point, that Hezbollah demilitarization support Lebanese army operation, the context of Israel forces is that Hezbollah commands important political post and political hegemony and military hegemony in Lebanon, and it is almost impossible that you can remove Hezbollah if UNIFIL forces are there. Rather, Hezbollah is using civilian shields and civilian government as a shield for their ulterior motives, and that is one of the argument which is given by Israeli forces. Okay, so I hope you've understood till here. Okay. So, good evening to everyone. Please, whoever has joined the lecture, please do like and share the session, and please do also comment in the comment box if you have any doubts. And good evening to everyone. Okay. I'll just check that if the audio and video is clear to everyone. Okay, great. That is clear to everyone. So I hope this particular part has been clear to everyone. And then the Prime Minister and the Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez has also given the statements on Gaza, and they have given the statements on Israel also, that the attack, the deadly terror attack which was done on 7th October 2023 on Israel was is not at all acceptable. It was a gruesome attack which was done. Plus, they have also spoken about that we need to have ceasefire resolutions. So both leaders condemned the 7th October attack. They called for immediate ceasefire, release of hostages, the Israeli hostages or the other hostages which Israel has, but majorly the hostages are with around more than 100 plus hostages with Hamas, and humanitarian aid access to Gaza. They reaffirmed their support for the two-state solution. Now, I've again and again told you what is a two-state solution. Two-state solution means a state for Israel and a state for Palestine. So once this two-state solution is there, there can be peace and prosperity in the region. That is what most of the countries in the world believe. Okay, so sovereign and independent Palestinian state. Apart from that, this is a news which I had covered yesterday. Inauguration of C-29 aircraft facility. I had covered this news a lot in detail. In Vadodara, we have opened our first private assembly line, and this is one of the biggest steps when it comes to defense manufacturing, specifically coming from a private company. Otherwise, for all this assembly, we used to go to HAL. So I've covered this entire news, that 56 C-29 aircraft which we are taking from Spain. Out of 56, 12 would come in exactly in the flyaway condition. Sorry, 16 of this would come in flyaway condition, and 40 of this we would be making them, in Vadodara in the factory assembly line. So 16 would be coming in directly flyaway conditions coming from Spain, in which we can use this. So 16 aircraft will arrive in flyaway condition. Vadodara's plant aircraft is expected in September 2026 with all 40 units completed by August 2031. Now C295 would be replacing AN32 and Avros. It is a very important tactical transport airlifter. It can do multiple missions. I have covered all this in yesterday's news. You can go and watch the lecture in detail. Though I have added these slides which you can go through, like it can do carrying troops, and cargo, maritime patrol, airborne warning, reconnaissance, surveillance, and it gives you the most important advantage of this particular aircraft is that it can land on a very small piece of around for 300 to 370 meters of land. It can land on that, so that will give it a lot of tactical advantage to this particular aircraft. If you say you're doing some operations in Northeast or Ladakh where the landing and the flying strip is very small, so this aircraft will come very handy to you. When you go for Globemaster or C-17s, those are very big aircrafts, one coming from Boeing and the other coming from Lockheed Martin. Those are very heavy aircrafts, though there's a different advantage of them, but they need a bigger landing and a takeoff strip. So in that context, I've covered this news a lot in detail. Yesterday you can go through that also. So strengthening India-Spain relationship, apart from the Vadodara news which was related to C295 aircraft, we also had a Rail Transport Corporation agreement, then mutual assistance in custom matter agreement, then fast track mechanism specifically related to trade between India and Spain, that was also done to boost investment between India and Spain, and then most importantly cultural exchanges between India and Spain would also increase. And next year, next to next year, 2026 would be celebrated India-Spain, Year of India-Spain in culture, tourism, and most importantly artificial intelligence. This also tells you how artificial intelligence is becoming so important. Now you need to see, we are talking about culture and tourism. Everybody understand India has done this with Russia and many other countries, but with culture and tourism there is one important thing coming, artificial intelligence. That means technology integration, and that also means the thought process of the government, the thought process, how they are seeking and how they are validating and how they are understanding the importance of technology and specifically AI. AI, yesterday also we had covered a lot of news related to cyber frauds. Now AI can also be used in cyber frauds for all negative things, but certainly it can also be used for very positive things. Now integration with Spain in terms of a cultural program and tourism and artificial intelligence also tells about the hindsight and future prospects, how Indian government or India as a central government authority are seeking towards future in tech. Initiatives include art exhibitions, film festival, literature events and tourism promotions in both countries, which will majorly be done in 2026. Then EU trade, India trade negotiation. Now I just want to add a little line to this. When German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was in India, he even said the same thing when it comes to India-EU free trade agreement. Olaf Scholz would be pushing for it, and same is said by the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, that he would also be pushing for it. This also tells how India geopolitically, how India trade-wise is becoming so important for the European countries, because the only country which is democratic in nature and which might stand or which can stand with the European or Americans in terms of challenging or in terms of countering China is in India, and they are betting hugely on this, and it is a matter of time when the free trade agreement between India and EU comes, because many European countries are now individually pushing for it. Now, upcoming events and engagement, Prime Minister Sanchez will participate in India-Spain CEOs forums and the India-Spain Business Summit. This will happen in Mumbai, and also delivering the keynote address at the 4th Spain-India Forum. So the relationship between India and Europe is strengthening. EU ways also, and Spain and Germany are also realizing that all the weapons or all the major deals were done by Israel or the Americans or the Russians or some other country. Why should Europe stay behind? So they are understanding, they are coming, and now they are also pitching their products to India. So this is a welcome thing which is happening. Now question, India-Spain a major contributor to United Nations Interim Force, correct statement. C-29 aircraft, Vadodara collaborative project between Tata Advanced System and Lockheed Martin. No, it is Airbus. Indian defense exports have expanded significantly over the past decade with equipment reaching over 100 equipments. Yes, 1 and 3 are correct answer to this question. Then we have a mains question, analyze the significance of India-Spain defense and trade and cooperation, considering recent developments such as C-295 aircraft facility and agreements in various sectors. How could these initiatives impact India's reach to European countries? So you can use a little bit of information which is given. Rest you need to work on your answer by adding information. Let's move to the next important news. I hope everyone is understanding. If you want to add something or you want that, I hope the pace of the lecture is fine. If you want me to slow down or increase the speed, please do let me know. Okay, what challenges does India face in fertilizer imports? Now, this is a wonderful article specifically from agricultural point of view, that what is happening in India is that the amount of petrol-based chemical fertilizers India wants or Indian agricultural wants. So what it wants and what is being supplied, that means there's a huge difference between demand and supply. We do not have the supply of the amount of fertilizer, I mean to say domestically produced, to cater to our domestic demand, and that is why most of our petrol based chemical fertilizers are coming from abroad. Now, because of Russia-Ukraine war and Middle East war, the problem of oil and gas is increasing, and if the problem of oil and gas increases, it will have direct impact, or you can say indirect impact, on our fertilizers. Now, Uttar Pradesh has straight away said that right now they only have next 10 days of fertilizers, chemical based fertilizers for themselves. So India's largest food grain producing Uttar Pradesh recently complained that the state has stock of fertilizer for only 10 more days. Please do remember, it is the largest food grain producing. Uttar Pradesh is saying that they only have fertilizer for the next 10 days. I also would like to add in this that we are approaching, we are almost in the Rabi season now, and once we are into the Rabi season, we would be needing a lot of these fertilizers, specifically the NPK and DAP. So DAP stands for diammonium phosphate and NPK stands for nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. And this is very essential for the growth of the Rabi crops. The problem is that most of these chemical fertilizer we are importing, and the cost of it will start increasing because of the Russia-Ukraine war and the global trade in turmoil, which we have discussed in a lot of previous lectures also. So with the crisis continuing in Ukraine and Gaza, expert and policy makers concerned further increase in the prices of the components used for making petroleum based chemical fertilizers. Now all these components which are used for making petroleum based chemical fertilizers, they are becoming in shortage, or there is a paucity of this, there is a huge shortage of this because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because we were dependent upon these components coming from these particular areas. Now this report further says that India needs to increase its domestic production of these petrol based chemical or the chemical based fertilizer. We need to increase our production facility. It also talks about that we need to be very resourceful while using these fertilizer. The wastage should be reduced. And the third important thing the reports also talks about is that we need to do we also need to use alternatives like urea based. Okay, so moving on to that. So standing committee on fertilizer reports, it expressed concern the production capacity of fertilizer does not commensurate with its demand requirement, and therefore the gap between demand and supply is high. And then there are certain numbers which will tell, or the facts which tells all the detail. 20% of the urea, 50 to 60% of DAP, diammonium phosphate, which is diammonium phosphate, and 100% of muriate of potassium, that is potash, is made through imports. So 100% of potash imports, 50 to 60% of DAP imports, 20% of urea imports. Now just imagine this imports which are coming, suddenly the countries which are sending it in times of war, if these countries stop giving it to it because they are aligned with our adversary or enemy country, so that can also be an agricultural warfare. Okay, the warfare is not necessary in the traditional means. Okay, non-traditional warfare, economic warfare, food warfare, health warfare, information warfare, cyber warfare, things have certainly changed globally now. War is not necessarily coming in terms that people are fighting on borders. People are fighting using technology or using food, economy, health. There are multiple parameters today. Okay. Everybody, whoever is watching the lecture, please do like and share the lecture, and the PDF of the lecture is available in the description. The link is available in the description for the PDF. So recommendations are given for domestic production. Expansion needs to be done. I have already told you that we need to increase our capacity. We need to have alternative approaches, nano urea, natural farming and efficiency enhancing technologies, and particularly we need to minimize our fertilizer wastage and maximize effectiveness. We need to be resourceful. We need to be more resourceful. Effectiveness of the fertilizer, and we also need to use alternatives like nano urea and natural farming. Plus the domestic production needs to be increased. So these are certain methods so we can counter these problems. So policy recommendations, standing committee stress the need for an investment friendly policy investment where it can be in terms of tax rebates, or it can be in terms of other rebates which government can provide, so that private investors comes and they invest in this field. So and public and private sector investment in fertilizer manufacturing. And as per the recent data since 2012, a new investment policy has been in place, resulting in establishment of 6 new urea-based plants, adding 76 LMT to India's annual urea production capacity. So these are certain good steps have been taken, but this needs to be augmented. This needs to be augmented. This needs to be increased, because again the problem which is coming is that the demand is too high, and we have just seen the example of Uttar Pradesh. So until unless we catch up to this demand, the problem will continue. And for example, if demand is 100, we need to have a supply of 110, because we need to take 10 to 15%, which might result in wastage because of XYZ reasons. There can be many reasons, transportation to various other factors which might lead to it. Okay, so analyze the challenges and potential solution for reducing India's dependency on fertilizer imports. Discuss the impacts of ongoing global conflicts on Indian fertilizer. So it's a good question. You can use the information which is available and answer this question. Now let's move to the next 2 news are related to economics, and they only they are telling about what is the current state and stage of the Indian economy. We'll talk about it. So cyclical slowdown. So Nomura economist indicates that Indian economy may have entered a cyclical slowdown. And what are the reasons of this cyclical slowdown? Apart from, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is that wages have not increased. Since wages have not increased, people are not able to buy things, and very tight economic policies of the RBI is saying, or the central bank is saying. There are multiple factors. As we go detail in the news, we'll cover that. So we have entered a cyclical slowdown with GDP growth potentially dropping to 6.7% for financial year 2025. And as per this report, we will not be able to achieve the target of 7.2% growth which RBI has put. So this report says that the 7.2 which RBI says, we will not be able to achieve it. So RBI forecast is of 7.2%. Even IMF is saying that we would be somewhere near around 7%. And 6.8% for financial year 2026. So they are saying, Nomura economist says that 6.7% for financial year 25 and 6.8% for financial year 2026. So they highlight the downside risk to these projections due to weak demand and limited salary growth. So these are the 2 major areas, weak demand and limited salary growth. Actually, this is the major reason. If this is a limited salary, recently there was a news also, it came in The Hindu also, and lot of social media and social media channels like Instagram and YouTube are also putting post on this, that the rate of a food thali, the thali has gone very high compared to the salaries. So the thali which used to be around 20 rupees, 25 rupees or 30 rupees or even at 10-15 rupees at one period of time, now it goes to 300 rupees, 500 rupees, 350 rupees. So at one point of a time, if a person can have that thali on everyday basis, today he or she cannot afford it because the wages and salaries have not increased. If wages and salaries don't increase, obviously you cannot go and buy things, right? So if my salary has gone from, for example, if the inflation is continuously moving and my salary is 20,000, next year it becomes 22,000, but the amount of inflation, it is moving around 5%, 6%, 8%, or it is food inflation is going even higher than that, then this increase of 2,000 rupees will not hardly make me survive in this inflation period, and I cannot go and purchase new things. Apart from that, RBI is also pushing for a tightening economic policy, in which when the tightening economic policy is followed, the loans become, the interest rate on loans are very high. When the interest rate on the loans are very high, you tend to take loans very less because you will have to pay more interest. So the amount of people borrowing money from the market reduces. If the money being borrowed from the market reduces, then you will not go and buy products. So eventually the demand comes down. So this policy is basically infused, or this policy is basically followed when you want to reduce the inflation in the market. Okay. Now moving into this, so urban consumption indicators have shown consistent sign of softening with low real salary hikes. This is the major problem which this report says, that salaries are not increasing in India. So most of the employees, who are working candidates or who are working, they would definitely understand that they want that salaries to be increased so that they can buy things. So this goes for all IT and all big manufacturing and IT and all the industries. So for all of them, and diminishing effects from pent-up demand post-pandemic. This particular new part of the news we had covered 4-5 days back in the IMF news. So IMF had also reduced our growth. It has come to 7% compared to 2023 when it had gone to 8.2% growth rate. Now that was because of the pent-up demand, because of the pandemic, because the all economy was closed and everybody was inside, and suddenly when economy went open, every industry, service, everything opened up and the demand went very high like a bazooka. But right now that pent-up demand post-pandemic has come down, everything is stabilizing, and now we have this problem. Because of the stabilization, we are also having the problem of wages not going high. So high interest rate, I've already explained to you, when high interest rates are there, you will not borrow money from the market because you will have to pay high interest. So when the loans reduce, you will have less money. When you have less money, you will buy less products. Once you buy less product, the demand reduces, and overall the impact which we can see in GDP happens. So moderate wage growth are dampening urban spending, contributing to a stagnant demand environment. Real salary growth for listed non-financial corporates has also slowed, reflecting weak nominal salary growth and workforce reductions. So workforce reductions has also happened. That means number of people who have been taken out of the jobs has increased, salaries have been low, and therefore demand has also been the low. And because of this, the Nomura economists have predicted that that GDP will be around, growth would be around 6.7% for financial year 2025. When I say financial year 2025, it means 2024 to 2025. 2025. When I say financial year 2026, it means 2025 to 2026. So it will means 1st April 2025 to 31st March 2026, and same will go for financial year 2025 also. That would be 1st April 2024 to 31st March 2025. So I hope that you know this. So tightening credit condition, RBI's restrictive monetary policies and macro-prudential crackdown is going on. Macro-prudential crackdown are very important. Prelims, or regulation from prelims point of view, it is very important. It means it is the approach to financial regulation that aims to mitigate risk to financial system as a whole, that you want to reduce the risk to the major financial system, and that is why you are following very prudential or prudent economic policies, rather prudent economic policies in terms of inflation and other factors, and that is why you have restrictive or tightening of economic policies. Okay, so I hope you have understood till here. So this tightening has led to slowdown in personal loans and overall lending. I've already explained you this. Okay. Okay. So implication, Nomura's October 17 report warned the growth glass looks half empty. So this is a question which can also comes in main, not necessarily right now, or because the mains are already over now, but these kind of statement do comes that XYZ economist has told about South Asia or India that Indian growth glass looks half empty. Kindly explain. So this is the report they are talking about. That is why it is very important that you continuously go through the news, and these statements based questions which we are seeing in UPSC mains have increased. So that is why this statement is important. The growth glass looks half empty, or half empty basically means what we have seen, the wages are less, demand is less. So continue tight monetary policy, fading boost from post-pandemic demand, less demand, tightening policy, all other reasons. And what is tightening monetary policy of central bank action? I have already explained to you. Rest all is given in the PDF which I have told you in the lecture. So let's move to the next news. Financial Ministry flags softer urban demand factory output. So again, this news also talks about how, economically we are not doing well, or economically we are moving towards a slow growth rate which we are seeing in manufacturing and other areas also. So that is why I have clubbed these news one after the another, because since you've understood the previous news, you will understand this too. So let's move to this news. So Finance Ministry flags slowdown in urban demand. Flags slowdown in urban demand and industrial output. You only tell me. We just completed the previous news. Why the urban demand is less? Because salaries are less, wages are less, inflation is high. So if your salaries are very high, like after the 6th pay commission, suddenly the salaries after the 6th pay commission had increased for the government employees, and there was a huge demand which came for products from the government servants at that point of time, because salaries increased and they had the capacity to buy. But today the salaries have not increased. If they have not increased, obviously they cannot buy new products, and hence the slowdown is coming. And you will be surprised that this slowdown is majorly coming in the urban areas. When you go to rural areas the demand has gone up, but in the urban areas the demand has come down. So consumer demand, so ministry says, Finance Ministry, the decline in urban consumer demand and industrial momentum, while projecting an economic growth rate of 6.5% to 7% for financial year 2025. So Nomura is also predicting somewhere this number only. Only RBI 7.2% target is up. IMF is predicting around 7%, and Nomura is predicting around 6.7, 6.8%. What was their exact number? Let me just go to that. So Nomura is predicting 6.7%. These people are predicting from 6.5 to 6.5 to 7%. These are like, after the UPSC exams is over, so when there are a lot of, these cut-off marks are being, told, so everyone's marks are more or less same. So it seems to be similar to like that only, that once a big agency says that it should be this, then every other group comes down to this. This is only to tell you the funny story. Obviously, they have a lot of studies and detailing regarding that. But yes, it looks like that. So anyways, funny anecdote in that particular purpose. So anyways, they do study, okay? That was just a joke. So urban and rural demand trends. So urban demand indicators reveal weaker urban consumer activity, including reduced FMCG sales. But why the FMCG sales are less? FMCG is fast moving consumer goods. So when the salaries are very high, salaries are good, they will purchase more, FMCG will go up, economy will go up. That is down because an FMCG culture is less in rural areas, it is more in urban areas. Urban spending has reduced because wages are low. So it's the same news. That is why you can relate with the previous news and you can understand this. So rural demand, on the contrast, rural demand has strengthened due to favorable monsoon condition which have boosted agricultural spending. So obviously people in villages, they, the FMCG spending of these people are relatively less. They buy less junk food, unlike people in the urban. The spending on the junk food and most of the FMCG other products is more in the urban areas compared to rural areas. So their spending is more on agricultural products, so it is going up. So industrial output, now output manufacturing only grew 1% in August, and in September it is also slowing down, and there are majorly two reasons for it. First is the lower international oil prices and higher oil imports. So it's good the international oil prices are less, we are able to import, but the refinery, it is impacting the refinery output because of the first two conditions. Now next is steel production was affected by slower automobile growth. Now automobile growth is low because people purchasing cars is reduced very much. So I think around 1.5 months back it was a news that plethora of cars are lying and people are not buying car because you need money to buy car. First, very simple, wages are less. Second important thing is that even interest rates are very higher. So when interest rates are very higher, like RBI might be doing it to, one of the reasons can be to control the inflation. So if the interest rate has moved from, say for a car interest rate it was 8%, it has gone to 11% or 10%, you will not buy, you will wait when the interest rates will come down. So if you stop buying the car, if you are not, because at the time of Diwali, there's a huge spending all over the country on buying a lot of products. But if people are not buying because of the tightening or of the macroeconomic policies, prudent macroeconomic policies followed by the RBI, demand will reduce, wages are not increasing, people will not be taking loans because of the higher interest, and hence the entire economy will definitely suffer from that. Okay. So hence, if you see automobile growth is slower, therefore steel production is also slower, and ipso facto your manufacturing output also reduces. So consumer sentiment decline attributed to seasonal buying habits and reduced footfall from above normal rainfall. That is one of the predictions being done. So RBI October bulletin has told that citing reduced GST collections, slowed bank credit growth, is also bank credit growth, how much credit they are giving, it has come down. Weaker merchandise exports as indicator of overall demand is slowing down. That's what this important report or the news talks about. So festive demand, so the ministry is thinking, finance ministry, that they are cautiously optimistic. So I have used this word a lot when it comes to Indo-China relation, but they are using it, that we are cautiously optimistic that the demand will increase during the festive season. So we are in the festive season. The festive season will get over by 1st of November. So earlier, so Diwali this time it is on 31st first, and certain areas they are also being celebrated on 30th. So whichever day you are celebrating. So happy Diwali in advance to everyone. So it says that these are early signs are not promising, because if demands need to increase, it would increase in this week. This is the time. Today is Dhanteras. So people buy a lot of goods on Dhanteras. Then Dhanteras is over. Then you have in couple of days, 3-4 days, Diwali would be over, and people buying things after Diwali, generally it reduces because the festive season would be over. So that is why they are saying that though early signs are not promising. So if it picks up after Diwali, we'll cover that in economics news. So key risks include geopolitical tension, geo-economic fragmentation, high valuation in advanced economies, which may result in negative wealth effects. So what is valuation? I had covered the valuation giving you India and China example, that when the valuation in the stock market increase, how you start spending less on that specific market and move to other markets. Like the foreign portfolio investments are moving from India, they are moving to China and the America. I've covered this beautifully in yesterday's lecture. You can go and understand what is valuation. What is geo-economic fragmentation? Means that the countries will start focusing on their own domestic market. This is happening in China also. Now China is also not putting a lot of money in BRI, because China itself is struggling from the real estate problem and the economic issues which they are facing. They would not be able to complete their 5% target also. And IMF has also revised their target and downgraded them, that they will not be able to achieve their targets. So China is also doing. So geo-economic fragmentation is also having geopolitical tension, Russia, Ukraine, Middle East, and the Israel, Iran, all these crises are not helping the situation. So overall, the sentiment is down. Hopefully over a period of time it should increase. So despite challenges, recent RBI survey shows improved consumer confidence and optimism among manufacturers. So it's good, but it needs to translate into numbers, and numbers don't lie. The statistics don't lie. In the coming 30 days, 40 days, when in the coming days, once we'll have the data regarding, we'll be there in the daily decodes, you and me, and we'll see what RBI survey said and what actually happened. It is matching or not. Okay, valuation, I've told you, please go through yesterday's lecture. So I've explained all this. Now we move towards the most important editorial for today, the under-representation of women in judiciary, the last news for today. So this is a wonderful editorial. A question on this has already been taken by UPSC in the previous year examinations, and this editorial has been written by Pratiksha Lal and Priyam Vadha Shivaji. So we'll talk about this. So wonderful pointers have been given in terms of why there is a low representation of women in judiciary, specifically higher judiciary. When it comes to lower judiciary, there is a decent representation, but when it comes to higher judiciary, where the women should be more, they are very less. So it highlights systemic issues. The word is systemic issues, infrastructural issues, and how system has created a sense where women are not able to enter. So issues like family, the family responsibilities women have, the issues of pregnancy, and because of this they are not able to get stipend because of their family commitments. They cannot have long career because there are breaks, and because of this they are not able to move forward in their judicial careers. So systemic issues, challenges that hinders women entry. First of all, entry into the system is very tough. Then retention, that they continue in the judicial system, is very tough. And growth, that they move in judiciary from district to high court and then finally to Supreme Court. So problem is everywhere. Entry is a problem, retention is a problem, and growth is biggest of them. In the judicial, arguing for necessity for women-centric perspective. So they have also spoken about female gaze is required, that the court needs to wear the female gaze or female specs and needs to understand and needs to help women so that they can rise in the judiciary. So there has to be a change in judicial policies. Current data on women representation levels, policy gaps, institutional biases, these are major problems they have spoken in this article, in this particular news, which we will cover, which are very essential if you want to increase the representation of women in judiciary. Okay, so key issues, entry and retention challenges. So first of all, women access to judicial roles is limited both at entry and retention level, with systematic barriers continuing to be a lack of progress. How? We'll talk about it. Let's first of all see some statistics. So when it comes to district judiciary, the Supreme Court 2023 state of the judiciary report says 36.3% of district judges are women, which is still good in the terms of 1/3 of the women are judges. In 14 states, more than 50%, over 50% candidates successfully recruited into civil judges junior division are women. So when you read these statistics, you are mesmerized. Yes, women is getting 1/3 of district judiciary, and in 14 states they are moving more than 50% over 50% of them have successfully recruited into junior division of in judges are women. So these are wonderful numbers, right? But this is the catch. They are only good in the lower judiciary. When it comes to the higher judiciary, numbers are very, very poor. So see the higher judiciary. Representative of women is notably lower at higher levels, which should be increased. So only 13.4% of high court judges are women. Only 13.4%. So rather in the lower judiciary there were 1/3 or they were around 50%. But now here 13%. Merely 9.3%, not even 10% of Supreme Court judges are women as of January 2024. States like Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha, they have no women judges or almost zero. So, and Uttarakhand, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttarakhand have either no women judges or only one. So these standards are very low. So when it comes to higher judiciary, the representation is very poor. 13.4% in High Court, 9.3%, not even 10% in Supreme Court of January 2024. Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttarakhand, either no women judges or only one representation. So this is quite poor. Okay. So only 50. Now when it comes to bar representation, that means when you talk about senior advocates or advocates on record for Supreme Court or bar council members, which is related to lawyers, advocates and law education in country, they are the representation of women. Only 15.3% of enrolled advocates are women, and they're underrepresented in senior advocates which are needed in the senior judiciary, advocates on record which are needed for filing up cases in Supreme Court, bar council members, the top members of the in the law fraternity which decides things related to law education, and advocates, forming a small pool for potential elevation. So since women are very less in senior advocates and record and bar council members, only 15%. So if the pool is very small, out of this is very simple mathematics, if there are only 15%, number of people going from this 15% upwards would be less only, because they are not able to come. So problem is coming, lower judiciary they are. So the mid level and the higher judiciary is where the women are basically struggling, in judiciary also and in advocates also. So resulting funnel effect is coming. Since they are very less here, obviously they can't move forward. Limited female representation at bar reduces the number of women eligible for elevation to judges. Policy gaps and institutional biases are also there. While entry level exists, direct recruitment requirements that many high courts or many states want, that there should be a continuously, women should be working for 5 years, 10 years or 15 years, but because of family responsibility, pregnancy and lot of other things, they are not able to continue, and hence they don't able to move forward. So they don't get any without any maternity benefits, and stipends are also not available. So it is a kind of dichotomy that when it comes to Supreme Court and High Court, they talk about that that women should be represented in the armed forces and in the tri-services, which is a wonderful step, and they are being represented. They are talk about that the equal representation should be there, but same should apply to our courts also. It cannot be that what you say or what you preach, but you are not practicing on yourself. So practicing and preaching on others is always easy, and many organizations are following, but this is where the courts also need to follow this. So senior advocates, advocates on record, bar council members, have explained this. I've already explained. The text is given here. You can go through the PDF and understand it. Okay. Retention challenges. Obviously, there's a retention challenges. Even after entry, women face career stagnation due to discouraging environment from colleagues or from the system, restrictive transfer policies, expectation around family responsibilities, and all these lead to retention problems. Infrastructure problem. This was amazed when I was going through this news, that how can we have a problem in 2024 for washrooms? Like, you are in 2024, you are not in 1930s and 40s. Even at that point of time, there shouldn't be a problem. In 2024, women are struggling to have washroom in senior judiciary. This is like heights, that they don't have toilets. Okay. So insufficient washrooms and limited child-friendly facilities like crèche. So Delhi High Court has it, crèche for children under 6, but they also have very limited reach. So if you talk about private, corporate sectors, toilets, crèche, they provide so many facilities for women so that they can continue with their family life and responsibilities, doing their corporate work also. Same needs to be done from the court side as well. So there's a particular theory, it's Carol Petman's theory. So Carol Petman's theory says that whenever women try to breach a particular area which has been male dominated, the system does not allow you to do so, and system is more favoring to the male. So it says that theory on the public-private divide, highlighting as a woman enter into traditionally male-dominated public sphere, the transition is not fully supported by institutional structures and people who are sitting into the institutional structures, and that is why breaking the ceiling becomes very tough. So we need to change our mindset, and I think washroom is one of the simplest of the things which can be provided to women. inadequate female representation in decision making, that they are not even part of important committees and judiciary meetings, specifically committees. For example, few high court building committees include women judges, they are not even included in this. So female gaze, so this I told you in the early part of the lecture. So both the authors spoke about that the judges and the system needs to see from female gaze and women specific needs need to be, and from feminism point of view, they need to provide basic necessity to women so that they can rise in the Supreme Court or in the higher judiciary and have equal representation, which the courts talk about other places has to be done from the alma mater itself. So a feminist lens to recognize women's unique challenges, ensuring policies. Okay, prioritizing women in judicial policy. So Justice Hema Kohli observation, that is the former Supreme Court judge. So she says that unconscious gender biases that exclude women from significant administrative roles. So you can include this particular quote also if you want to write that answer. So you can start with this also. And the Carol Pateman's theory is also there. So a lot of structures and answers and pointers which you can add into your answer if a question comes. So gender sensitive recruitment and transfer policies also needs to be there. And infrastructure improvements needs to be there. Washroom facilities, hygienic waste disposal system, specifically women go through through various cycles in a month. Specifically I'm talking about period cycle which comes, and in that particular time you need better disposal system and specifically more hygienic washrooms. So this is the least which we can talk about. So women disposal system, establishing childcare amenities like crèche, training and support, gender sensitization training for judicial members, and this practice is done in lot of other organization, private organization, which can also be taken in our judiciary also, so that representation of women in administrative roles and in the higher judiciary increases. Okay, so in conclusion, women-centric perspective is crucial, ensuring that they are no longer marginalized in policy making and structural arrangements. And by embracing inclusive policies, gender sensitive infrastructure and equitable recruitment processes, all these pointers are important, but obviously the structure needs to be there, gender sensitization needs to be there, and various theories which we have spoken about, that we need to understand for that if the systemic failures are there and they are not encouraging women to go into the higher judiciary, that has to be taken care of. So equitable recruitment processes, inclusive policies, and most importantly gender sensitization needs to be done. So what can be a question? Discuss the structural barriers to women's entry and retention in India's judiciary and suggest measure to create inclusive environment that enables greater representation of women in higher judiciary. Lot of pointers are there. It's a 15-marker question. Lot of information I've suggested. So from bar to judiciary to the number of states and what the numbers you can use and write this answer. This is a wonderful editorial which has come. So in tidbits, so center warns against illegal digital payment gateway. So this is again a follow-up of yesterday news. So MHA had done some raids were done in Andhra and Gujarat, and they got to know that gateways linked to shell accounts are there, which are transferring these illegal money through the use of money laundering and mule bank accounts. I already covered mule bank accounts 3-4 days back. So these are accounts which are used for transferring money laundering or illegal money. Sometimes the user might be aware of, sometimes he might not be aware of. So this I have also covered, in which I explained you the entire money laundering and what is the placement PLI system, placement layering and integration. So you can go through the previous lecture also. In the extra mile, this is an archive lecture of the Hindu, archive news of the Hindu, understanding US relations. So you can go through the extra mile lecture, and some pointers have added how that Israel-US relationship is so much strengthened. So with this, today we complete the Hindu, and I hope that you enjoyed the lectures, and I'll try to make sure that this gets completed in 1 hour, because otherwise the lecture was getting too much stretched, and I hope that you enjoyed the lecture today. The PDF is available in the description. You have any doubts, the pointer which you do not understand, please put it in the comment section. I'll explain that, or I'll try to take it in the next lecture. Thank you very much. Happy Dhanteras, happy Diwali to everyone. Take care and Jai Hind.